Thanks for staying with us right here on the Morning Agenda on Power 106 FM. I'm Kemoy McEkron. We continue our discussion now with Kacy Garvey, founder and managing director of JICU, and she's also a poet. Maybe we should ask her to do a poem for us this morning, as well as Jonathan McLaughlin, director, actor extraordinaire, and creative. Kacy, let us talk about, before we get to AI, which I'm sure you guys have a viewpoint on, the issue of education is to the front now in terms of our performance of students, etc. How can we use social media in this context? For example, yourself as a poet and your organization to assist our children in learning and outside of taking just social media, for example, as entertainment.
I would say that we need to give them a sense of ownership first. I do believe that there is a disconnect. I just want to be clear. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes,
okay?
We're hearing you. Please
okay,
go ahead.
I wasn't too sure yet. I think that there's a disconnect between the information that's shared and what students genuinely believe is relevant. And that disconnect needs to be bridged first. You know, you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink unless you realize that you get that horse to realize that this water is good for me. And I think that's why it's so key for those of us as Jamaican creatives to infuse this space more so that students can see and hear persons who country as them accents and yet, you know, finding themselves in these spaces of influence. So a lot of our students are far more influenced by Americans on social media than they are by even their neighbors and families in their real life physical community. So I'd say the first thing is to make it relevant through art and through just content creation so that our young people can see us, and then when they see us as relevant sources of information, then they'll start listening to us more.
And that's another important point, the point about the influence and where the influence comes from. Because if they're on social media, for example, a large amount of the content that they're going to be consuming is going to be from outside. How do we now then twin that what you have said in terms of them becoming first and then also providing them with the relevant content that they should be consuming? Is there anything that you're from where you sit, for example, that we could do to assist with that?
Well, I think that one way to make them see it as more relevant is to get them to be a part of the process. Walk alongside them, guide them. Like, you know, we need to break away from this extreme of saying social media is absolutely terrible and it's a waste of time and just study a book. No, it is here. It's not going anywhere. Let them be guided responsibly by people who care about them and are invested in their future so that they can engage it in a helpful way. So even JICU right now, we're trying to get some support. I hope we get it after this interview. We have a project that we want to, you know, we're going to schools and, you know, those of us as professional poets who've won awards, earn money off of our poetry, we can set up workshops with students, and these students can write poems about what they are going through, about what they're interested in, about what's impacting their life when they set foot on a compound and, you know, God forbid there is violence there. And so once they co-create, you know, I didn't want to say co-create. I don't want to just be us guiding them. If they can create their own content and engage it and then get that kind of dialogue started even with some of their other students and hopefully their teachers, maybe that can be a segue into bridging this kind of intergenerational gap that we have right now with our students, where we as adults, we are in a physical world and we engage physically while so many of our teenagers are living in the metaverse and spending more time looking at TikTok videos of strangers who don't know they exist.
I'm going to ask a question by using an illustration for both of you. So, for example, Jonathan, you have on YouTube, for example, I think most of us will know what I'm talking about, this video of the national anthem. So beautiful music, but then it has these wonderful videos and cinematography to go with it. And I think it's one of the best things that we have ever produced or has been produced regarding our country. Kacy, in terms of poetry, for example, could we see something like that? So your work, for example, at poetry, along with Jonathan's cinematography to demonstrate, to then bring in our young people into different interests, interest in the content, interest in the production that goes behind it, etc. Either one of you could take it.
I'll allow Jonathan. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
That's okay. Yes, I think as a nation we are greatly appealed by our visual sensory motors. We like what we see, and if it's attractive to us in our eyes, we pay more attention to it. And so, to have a poetry piece, it's good that we can create contents where we are talking about some social issues or some political issues or economical issues, but it also will gravitate more to our audience if we add a few cinematography, a few visual elements to it to captivate their attention, to be able to can say, okay, I really am interested in what's going on in this. That's one of the major things that I teach in cinematography, is because it's a visual tool. That's one of the main things that it is, a visual tool, and so we have to capitalize on that. And how can we now appeal visually to our audience and capitalize on that? And then I believe that the audiability of it is like a cherry on top of the beautiful artwork that we create. For example, bring back to your example with National Anthem. National Anthem is a national treasure. We love it. It's adorable. We have different variations of it, different creative output of how we can execute it, which is really beautiful. And when you add the visuals of the Jamaica culture and the identity and the essence of what makes us Jamaican, it makes it attractive, even more attractive than ever. And so that's one thing that I think we can capitalize on a lot, especially when it comes on social media.
All right, Kacy, you want to now jump in?
Yes, I fully agree with Jonathan, and I'm glad that you brought up this fusion of arts. I'm a lover of that. I have another poetry film idea that I would love to create as well. So maybe you and I can talk afterwards, Jonathan.
Definitely.
Yes, I'd love it. And I also like the fact that when we're talking about media, you go from a full range when it comes to even the accessibility of resources. I know for sure that Jonathan is aware of the price point of creating, any kind of film. That it can be expensive. It can be a lot. I mean, it is. So it's wonderful when it's done well, and if you have those resources. But even if you don't, I guess that's why I have a soft heart towards poetry. You don't need all of that for a poem. A poem, you can just drop a poem, like that's it. You don't need any instruments, outside of a microphone. If you even need that, you can do that as well. So we really should take advantage of the full range of means of sharing information that positive messages, and that's going to help shape our culture or promote the positive elements of our culture, especially to the next generation. One poem in a 2-minute poem can do that more powerfully than we may realize.
Definitely.
And more affordably than a lot of other ways.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
There has even been innovation where there's a thing that we have now in society, popular attraction to podcast making. And so they have innovatively created instruments, tools that we can use that are affordable, that our students can be able to access. For example, the portable microphones that were not really as easy accessible or even of great attention grabber to our audiences, but now that people are capitalizing on this idea of becoming a podcaster, becoming a vlogger, we find that people are capitalizing on these things, and these things cost like $4,000 for a pair, and we can capitalize on that really good. So we can find tools of things that are more affordable and build from there, because it's good if you start at a starting point and continue to build on that, you will reach somewhere eventually.
And while we call for funding as well, and certainly, for example, we probably need to expand the definition of culture to get more support from the government in this regard, but also it could be approached from an entrepreneurial point of view, as you have mentioned, for example, because of the earning potential of the industry as well.
Yeah.
I believe also that because when I teach arts in business, I sensitize my students to things like sponsors and donors. And in Jamaica, there are a lot of organizations, non-profit organizations that are able to fund entrepreneurial ideas that when it relates to the arts. There are state funds that are available, and I believe that people are just not equipped and educated about those routes. For me personally, I tell my students that it's free money because it's there, and if you are educated and you have the knowledge that it's there, you know where you can go to get it, and how you can go about attaining it, then the work would be a lot easier. The things that my students did a 5-minute film, and when they create a budgeting plan for it, and I showing them the reality of how to book spaces and so forth, it came up to almost $1 million, and they were like, "Sir, really?" I was like, "Yes, just for 5 minutes? Yes, that's what it costs." But you don't have to be taking all that money out of your pocket.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Kacy, I'm going to give you the last shot of it. You tell us about something else in the week, or you could just leave us with a poem. Choice is yours.
Oh, gosh, I wish I could have done both. All right, well, I will hold back the love for the poem and invite everyone to come out to our panel discussion. It's on Monday coming at 5:30 p.m. at the Michael University College. There'll be light refreshments afterwards to facilitate dialogue with our panelists. So please come out and tell everybody Monday, 5:30 p.m. at Michael University College.
And one line from a poem?
Oh, my gosh. I'm trying to think. Okay, I'll say one line from a poem. Justice fights, but hope plants language undertongue. Adope, Nyame, Obia, Juka, Umbakra. Hope carves name into memory. Hope harvests beauty from cane roll, Bantu nuts and dreadlocks. Sews calico over curved hips and anoints curls and coils with castor oil. That's from my latest poem called Hope Gardens.
Thank you so much. That is, of course, Kacy Garvey, founder, managing director of JICO and poet, as well as Jonathan McLaughlin, director, actor, and creative. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Morning Agenda on Power 106 FM.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.